you.
Are you going Norway or?
No,
Or is he
actually, he's coming here. I just got
Yes.
back from Vietnam.
What was going on in Vietnam?
I'm hooked
Doing
up
a
with him.
consulting job.
He was speaking had a speaking engagement in Saigon. Very cool. Very cool.
Is this the second one? I just signed it. Yeah, there is two. Oh, there's two. Okay. Okay, 7 o'clock.
The equator runs through part of
Here,
it, so.
take this.
Oh, and sweltering.
Good evening. We will call this meeting to order. This is the HRA meeting, the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Authority. And first item, what am I supposed to do with that
The
one?
recognition of the outgoing
I will turn it
HRA
over to the
chairs.
vice chair.
We would like to take this time to recognize the outgoing HRA chair, Susan Sandal. She has done many wonderful things for the city of Richfield. We've appreciated her service on the HRA and on the city council. And over the years, I've watched her mentor many people and help them get involved in the process, and is always there and helpful and trying to give people a voice. So thank you very much. Are there any other commissioners that wish to speak? Doris?
There it is. Commissioner Sandell, on behalf of the entire HRA, not only those who are present today, but those with whom you have served in the past 10 years, I'd like to thank you very much for your service. On a personal level, I'd like to thank you particularly for your really knowledgeable and considered comments and insights into the programs that we have been discussing, your compassion for citizens who come forward to this commission with problems. You've always been a leader, and no matter what you do as you leave this commission, we wish you the best. On behalf of the commission, I'd like to present this plaque of appreciation to you, which says, Suzanne M. Sandal, in appreciation of your outstanding contribution and dedicated service to the Richfield HRA as a commissioner, October 2004 to December 2014, presented by the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Authority on this 15th day of December 2014.
Thank you. That's lovely. All right, and it was so much fun, I didn't realize it was 10 years. Honestly, I didn't.
Yeah.
May I be recognized?
Mayor Sandal?
Yeah.
Regarding the years of service, one of the things that I think Sue brought to the table was not only the fact that she'd been here for 10 years, that she'd also been on the council, and that her husband had been on the council, and she had a history that is very advantageous to the city to have. History really does a lot. We find out a lot of reasons why we do the things we do because of that, and you have a very good memory, and that has brought a lot of expertise to the table because of that. And I must say that I appreciate that leadership as well.
Thank you, Your Honor, appreciate it. Okay.
Commissioner Seppel?
Please.
All right.
So if staff can
Mr. Stark?
can say something. You know, the thing that I really appreciate about Sue, and I've been working with Sue since 1998, so it's been a while, is I really think she does an excellent job of leading from within. You know, she's not out ahead. She leads from within. And sometimes I think a part of that is that Sue doesn't get the credit she deserves because she's not out there in front. This is more a city council role than an HRA role. But I think the one thing that really illustrates this is the Best Buy corporate campus. There were a handful of people that were the most, involved in making that project happen. A lot of them are people like Dick Schultz that you read about in the newspaper every day, or the city manager, or different people. So I can tell you, having been through all of that, that Sue was just as involved as anybody else, and from the city council standpoint, she really took the leadership role on the city council and made that project happen. So I really don't think that the Best Buy campus would be here without a very small handful of people, and one of those is Sue. So that's just one example, but there are countless others where Sue has played such a key role. And, you know, the average Richfield resident may or may not know that's the case, but I can tell you we on staff know it's the case. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Thank you very much. We'll turn it back over to you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Next item is approval of the minutes of the special concurrent HRA and City Council work session of October 20, 2014.
So moved.
Oh, just got one more.
And there's one more, if I
Oops,
can just
that's
continue.
right.
That's okay. And the regular HRA meeting of October 20, 2014.
I'll move that as well.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the HRA agenda. Any
So
discussion,
moved.
correction? Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Next is the consent calendar, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Stark.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sandell. Tonight, the consent calendar contains 2 items which would be acted upon by the HRA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved, and no further HRA action would be necessary. The 2 items tonight are A, consideration of the approval of a transfer of funds to close the Urban Village, Gramercy, Lindale Gateway West, and CARA capital project funds, and the transfer of funds from the Interchange West Tax Increment Fund, the Development Fund. Item B is the consideration of the approval of the annual consultant services agreement with the Greater Metropolitan Housing Corporation, otherwise known as GIMIC, for 2015. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So
I'll move
moved.
it.
And a second? All right. Any discussion?
Yes,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair, may I?
Excuse
I
me,
have
go ahead.
just a couple of questions, and I'm sorry I didn't get to you sooner, Mr. Stark. Regarding item A, the transfer of the funds, which was kind of nice to see that, I was wondering, is there any restrictions, or what could we use those funds for again as they transfer in anything? I was just curious about, you know, that's a nice sum of money.
This whole process started with Chris Regis, by the way, finance manager. The whole process of what we're going through here is really kind of a house cleaning type of thing. We had several funds within the HRA that really hadn't been used. They've been dormant after the projects had been completed and everything. And then also at the same time when we were doing that kind of review and things like that, we noticed some funds also that we're trying to segregate tax increment from non-tax increment funds, and that's what the other transfers are doing. And with the tight reporting that the state auditor offices requires, we've segregated some of those funds for 18 months just to make sure that the state auditor is not going to come back and say, well, no, this is incorrect, or you need to do this, and you need to pay us this money or turn this money over or anything like that. So we have restricted a lot of that money for about 18 months, but once that 18-month period is over with, I'm thinking some of those funds would probably be free and clear, and I know John has probably got ideas of what he wants to do with some of that money.
Well, I just know we have a lot of stuff going on, so I was hoping, and will we be able to use those fairly to our discretion?
I'm
Oh,
thinking
that's
sometime
nice.
in the future, yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good to hear. And then on the second item here, consideration of this annual consultant services agreement, I saw these great programs that the Greater Metropolitan Housing Corporation does, but I also know that CASH also does these kinds of programs and also works with Richfield residents. So is there duplication here, or can you explain what the difference might be?
Yeah, I think that there are some overlapping services, but I think that how people get to those services differs. I think people get referred to CAPSH in certain circumstances and to GIMIC in other circumstances. And a lot of times what we find is that people are receiving 2 or 3 services at once. And so, you know, they might be receiving 2 services from GIMIC that CAPSH doesn't offer, and 2 services from
I see.
the other. And so there might be one service that overlaps with these people that are getting multiple, but it would just, it would make it more difficult for them to segregate out, okay, I'm using gimmick for this program or these funds and capped for this other one. So we've talked about this over the years. We talk about it every year when it comes up, and we do think that even though there is some overlap in services, that it brings a broader pool of
okay.
people and helps a broader pool of people in Richfield.
Okay, all right, that's all.
Okay, I'll call, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that Commissioner Gotel beat me to the punch on that question. I was reading through this. I said, well, what are we going to do with this money now? And to know that it's unrestricted is really exciting. So, great.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Stark, item number 5.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sandall. On October 20th, the Donald James Group, and Donald James is here in the audience, presented a concept plan to a concurrent work session of the City Council and HRA. The proposal called for the redevelopment of the 7600 block of Pleasant and Pillsbury Avenue with approximately, we say here approximately 44 for-sale townhomes. That number, depending on whether the home owned by Ruby Hintgen, that's kind of a remainder, whether that stays or not kind of affects the number. So I would say somewhere between 44 and 50 townhomes. The portion of the site that previously contained the old city garage building is owned by the city, while the HRA owns the remainder of the site. At that work session, council members and HRA commissioners expressed support for the concept of medium-density for-sale townhomes on the site, but there were some concerns about the site layout, building materials, and architecture. So the prospective developers are trying to work through some of those issues to come up with a site plan and design and materials that meet your concerns. We did receive on Friday afternoon an updated site plan, and then today I received a description of the materials, and we previously received a rendering. So we weren't able to get that to you in your packet, but it's there for you to look at tonight.
No, I think everybody's got one.
So, you know, with having policy level support of the concept, the next step would be to draft a preliminary agreement that would grant the developer exclusive rights to make a proposal and would have provisions that require the developer to compensate the city and HRA for staff and consultant expenses. In an effort to eliminate redundant activities, staff has recommended that the city and HRA enter into joint agreements with the developer rather than each drafting and approving separate agreements. So on November 10th, the City Council approved a motion to authorize the HRA and its staff to negotiate a preliminary purchase agreement with the developer for the site. HRA Legal Counsel has drafted the attached purchase agreement that's in your packet. The agreement provides for the following. One, it sets the price of the property at its recently appraised value of $792,000. We just got that appraisal in last week. If you prorate that kind of to the percentage of ownership of the site, that would be $259,000 to the HRA and $532,000 and change to the city. It would provide the developer with exclusive rights to pursue a project on the site until April 30th of next year. It would require the developer to deposit earnest money in the amount of $39,600, which would be 5% of the property's value. Require the developer to pay for legal and financial analysis costs associated with the proposal, and up to $1,000 of staff time. It would be contingent on the developer obtaining all planning and zoning approvals. It would allow the developer to access the site for environmental investigation and allows the developer to terminate the agreement if they conclude that there are any environmental concerns. And it requires both parties to enter into a contract for private development, which would address any requested public assistance and establish the schedule and other details of the construction of the proposed development. It should be noted that while the purchase contract defers the provision of tax increment financing to be addressed in a future contract for private development, the developer has indicated that such assistance will almost certainly be requested. I can also tell you with respect to TIF, it's always been our intention that the first $250,000 or so of TIF would first come back to reimburse the city and HRA for demolition and environmental costs that have already been incurred to date. I think that covers the staff report, but I would be willing to field any questions you might have, as would the developer.
Okay. You've just passed out some information. Has staff seen this before?
Some of it we've seen, and some of it came in pretty recently. Some came in Friday and some came in today.
Okay. I would think, would you like to hear from the developer at this point?
For sure.
Yeah, okay, would you like to come up?
So, my name is Donald James. I'm representing the Donald James Group. And did you want to see the site plan, or do you have that in front of you there?
Well, we do, we all have a copy, and maybe you'd like to put it on the overhead.
Sure.
I think we have an extra one if you need it.
As John was saying, if we look here in the, this is where Ruby's house is. And our plan now is to get option from Ruby, fair market value at life estate. He wants to sell the house at fair market value, let me buy that. Get $10 down, rather than part of our. The way the townhomes are laid out, they all have a front yard and a backyard. The backyard's really an alley, goes to the garages. The front of the house, you all look at the front of the house, gaping grass. The little alleys between the townhomes here, simply that. They go to the two-car garage on the back of every townhome. A little clever design we did too. On the back, there's a little deck off the kitchen. Look at the back, right? Deck, right. So these are a two-story townhome with an unfinished family room. Of course, the options are finished family room, gourmet kitchen, updated master bath. Otherwise, it's all 4 bedrooms, 3, 4 bath.
Will these be passive? I see some energy efficiency kinds of things in here.
Yeah, most of them are passed.
What do you mean most of them are passive?
Well, okay. Let's go the, actually, you could tell me what we're
What a
doing.
passive house is? A passive house is one that's actually, the envelope is sealed, and it's sealed in such a way that, you know, they use the heat guns and everything like this in the windows and everything like this.
Yeah, we're not going for a
Make sure.
sewer rating on this.
Okay.
We're not spending that much on these houses, but we are doing,
I see a 92% efficient vent natural gas
Right.
furnace, and I'm looking at the R44 fiberglass on the ceiling, you know, some, yeah. Roof trusses with energy heels.
well, and these are all things that we'll use to help with our marketing as well, show people how well the house is built. We hope that when they see the house with a 30-year roof and things like that, they know that as a homeowner, that their HOA fees are not going to go up.
In looking, if, I'll speak and then Doris, I'm sorry. Looking at the blocks, what I'm looking at, it appears that the houses face each other and there are sidewalks that go down the center and then cross over between the homes. Is that what I'm seeing? In the middle of what looks like a block, and then on the back side is where their driveway is into the building, where the alley is. You have private
Yeah, if you look
two-way
here on
drive, yeah.
76th Street, down here, drives, come into the alley, here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the railroad track along here, so we're buffering the back as well. There'll be a berm far side of the street. Again, buffer train track, although there's also
Yes.
but it's not a thing of beauty either. Of course, there's a power line down the road, Birmingham track, bringing that down. The power line.
Is there any difference between the row of houses facing the, facing the railroad track versus the houses that are in the blocks?
No, but there are 3 different models in here. This is really a rough design. End units, which have more glass, slightly larger, slightly higher price. Middle units, different size. Smaller ones, about 660 square feet, about 1850, big size. Corner.
Okay, I'm sorry, Doris, go ahead.
I have a couple questions and a comment. First, I'm sure that the neighbors are going to be much happier with this architectural design than the previous, and the layout than the previous one that you first presented us with. So thank you very much for listening to our neighbors. Number 2, having gone through in Woodlake Village a recent experience with doing re-siding and new windows on our buildings, I see that you've got vinyl siding on it. And one of the reasons that we decided against vinyl siding is experience that some of us had going to North Minneapolis after the tornado went through and seeing how the houses with vinyl siding the tornadoes had just ripped them off. And those that had different kinds of siding, hardy board or similar to that, were intact. And I understand that this really makes a difference in the cost of the house. But had you ever considered anything else other than vinyl siding? And is there something unique about the system for hanging this that would keep it from being pulled off in the terrible winds we've been getting lately?
That's an excellent question. My first goal was to build with hardy board until I got down to the number. Hardy board was about 20%.
Yeah, we went with a hardy board knockoff that was substantially less, but basically the same, nevertheless.
And there's some other products out there that claim to be as good as hardy board. We have found that not.
We know we're not going to get hardy board, but yeah.
So for a night, and of course with vinyl siding, there are many different grades of vinyl siding.
Yes.
So heavier siding.
Yes.
The problem with vinyl siding, a lot in Minnesota is cold. The cheaper vinyl siding, when it gets cold, you throw a snowball against the back. So these are heavier, has more flex, cold. But it's the price.
Okay. My third question was, or my third issue is, do you have a price point set yet for the initial monthly homeowner association fee? You haven't figured that out yet. Okay.
But as you know, that typically the developer will control the HOA. Hopefully in good shape. It's not going to be an expensive association part of it all. Association is going to be paying for snow, lawn,
Right.
and
There's no party room, there's no gym, et cetera, yeah.
exterior insurance. Of course, half the HOA fee really is the outside. But
Yeah.
then homeowner paying.
All right, other questions, comments?
I have some questions. I came late to the presentation that you made to the joint city council and HRA meeting. So is this the same number of units that you had in that proposal?
No, this is more. And because of the design of it, we're able to get more units in. Of course, 10 units are where Ruby's house is right now, too. So those will be built at some time later. And like I say, our attorneys are drawing up documents for Ruby to hopefully do a life estate, live there as long as she wants to, and then sell it at fair market value, whatever the fair market value was going to be. We're also going to talk to Ruby about putting a fence around her property, because she has a fence around it now that's kind of falling down. And so we're going to present her with an option that we will provide a fence for her, so she won't have to look at the ugly building going on around her And it might insulate some sound from her too. It'll be a privacy fence, if she wants it.
You have a number of features that are going to make your proposal attractive. We had a challenge with a previous developer who had some great ideas and good promises, but, you know, he had to cut back and make changes. Are your numbers firm enough that you can come through with what you're proposing?
I know that we can do what we're proposing. Will there be changes? I can guarantee, yes, there will be changes as we go along. If we can find some way to improve things or make something better, we certainly will. Or if we get helpful suggestions from somebody, or I come up with my one idea of the year, that'll be implemented too, so. But yes, the numbers are solid for our construction. As Mr. Stark mentioned, we have applied for TIF financing as well, and this would not be possible but for the TIF. I have talked to, there was an article in the Richfield, Sun Current, and so I've gotten some phone calls from that, and of course the one gentleman said, why don't we do single-family housing over there? And of course it's the price of land. So I just mentioned it to him, it's just not practical. So, but I said if he could convince the HRA to sell us the land for, $80,000 per lot times, say, 14 homes, we'd be happy to do that. So he may be calling you, I hope.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
No, I was pleased with the changes, though. You can tell you responded to the feedback.
Yes, very nice, much nicer.
And the nice thing about the vinyl siding again, too, we can do different colors easily with the vinyl siding. So we're looking at vinyl siding. Look at the picture.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Look at the picture. We've got vinyl siding. We've got half brick in the bottom or half rock. This is cultured stone at the bottom down there. These are aluminum wraps up here. Of course, we're using multiple colors. And if you see the whole row, there's different colors, townhouses, so they look like individual homes. It's not like the old days when I had a friend that bought a house in Apple Valley in the 60s, where I would drive to his house and pull into the driveway before, same house. Eventually, these will all have a slightly different look to them.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just one response to the concern about vinyl siding. With Main Street Village and with Castile Place, those both have vinyl siding on them.
They do.
The requirement that staff put on them, there's two different levels of requirement. There's the requirement that, if it's a piece of property on the open market that somebody wants to develop, they've got to follow the zoning ordinance and those kinds of things. If we are selling them the property, or if we are providing tax increment financing, that gives us a little bit more leeway to add additional requirements. With those other two projects, we required that there be no seams in the vinyl siding. So, if they sell vinyl siding in spans of 24 feet or whatever the dimensions are, a lot of times they will cut them up and have scraps and kind of piece things together using what they have. So when we require no seams, that does mean a little bit more waste in terms of the materials, but we think it provides a much, much better looking product. So many times when you see a vinyl sided building and it looks bad, it's because you can see the seams, and also that's where the wind can get into it, is at the seams. So.
Okay.
I have a
Good.
question for John, if I could.
Go ahead.
John, if this moves forward, would it be a planned unit development for the Planning Commission and the council? And
Yes.
Okay. Other questions or comments? All right. I do have some recommendations from staff, which I would include in any motion if this group wants to go forward. But I have to get back because now I have a picture.
I can make a motion.
Okay, that'd be great.
I make a motion to approve a resolution approving a purchase contract with Donald James Group LLC for publicly owned properties on the 7600 block of Pillsbury and Pleasant Avenues. And with the purchase contract would be added provisions that item 3 contingencies be amended to include the approval of the site plan, and building materials by HRA, and the written acknowledgement from the HRA staff that they are satisfied that the developer, architect, and builder have relevant project experience.
Okay.
Second.
Other discussion?
Any further discussion? I have, perhaps, John, you can explain what is the timeline in terms of what's being proposed and,
Yeah, the next step would kind of be going on two things at the same time. One would be the land use approvals. Mr. James and his team would submit that through the planning and zoning process. That can take anywhere from 60 days to 180 days. At the same time that that's going on, we, and when I say we, it's really staff, HRA legal counsel, and then folks from Ehlers and Associates will put together the development agreement that will touch on primarily the tax increment financing. We know that the developer is looking for it. We haven't figured out, how that's going to be structured, the amounts, and so that will be put into that development agreement. I would suspect that would come back to you in either January or February. With the holidays, I wouldn't be surprised if it was February. So those were the two things that would be going on simultaneously.
okay. I'll call unless there's any other comments or questions, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With that amendment, and we'll make sure that you get the information that we just amended your contract with. And we hope that this will be a major improvement, and look forward to having you work with staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
too.
happy holidays.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to present an award here, and I would like Mr. Stark and all present staff of the HRA to be recipients there.
Cheryl.
With maybe Cheryl's. And on December 11th, the University of Minnesota Humphrey School of Public Affairs recognized the City of Richfield HRA's Kids at Home program with their Local Government Innovation Award for 2014. The Local Government Innovation Awards program recognizes outstanding cities, counties, and schools in Minnesota that demonstrate results in improving local services. The HRA Kids at Home program provides families with children in the Richfield schools with support to achieve housing and financial stability. The program provides a shallow rent subsidy and access to a social worker to determine and address barriers and to establish work plans to overcome those barriers. The Kids at Home program assists approximately 30 families each year and has seen measurable success amongst those who served. And this was part of the initiative, I remember, when Susan Rosenberg was very involved in this when she served on the council. And maybe you'd like to just tell the folks at home a little bit about what it entails.
Certainly. The program, as Sue mentioned, serves about 30 families each year. These are families who have kids in the Richfield School District. And in an effort to increase stability in their home life, both from moving around and financial stability, we are assisting them with a shallow rent subsidy, and then also getting them in touch with a social worker through the Adler Institute to help them work through any issues and barriers that are keeping them from being stable and from becoming financially stable. It's been a terrific program. A number of the families have seen great success with the program, even going on to purchase their own homes in Richfield.
How many years, Terry?
Maybe 6 or 7 years, maybe even,
No, it's longer than
yeah,
that.
longer
It's
than that.
longer than that.
And just to give you some practical insight as to how it works, this is the example I always give people. Let's say you're working fast food, flipping burgers, and you've got some kids. And because of your salary, the level of your salary, you're able to get a $800 a month voucher through Section 8 to help you with your housing. One day your boss comes to you and says, congratulations, you're doing your job so well that we're going to promote you to shift manager. Well, then you come into the Section 8 office. You say, Section 8, I'm really proud I got a promotion. I'm going to be earning $600 more a month. Section 8's, they do the numbers. It's all based on federal guidelines, and they say, well, that's great. We understand you're getting a $600 a month raise, but that has made you ineligible for Section 8, so you're losing your $800 a month voucher. So somebody loses $200 to get a promotion, and that's the kind of reason that this was established, to keep giving people those ways of getting out of poverty and being a bridge for people.
And the one other thing I recall was with the Richfield School District, they said, if we get those kids and we have them long enough, and Mary can speak to that, we can do wonders with them. But when they move from place to place because their parents lose their apartment or for whatever reason they can't stay in one place, they don't thrive and they don't do well. And this allows those families to be stable, stay in one place. Kids can stay in the same school district. They don't have to bounce from one classroom to another. So thank you for the great work. Appreciate it. And did we have anything else in the executive director report or any other HRA discussions? I should finish that. Anybody want to bring anything up?
Happy holidays.
Okay, thank you. All right, executive director report.
Happy holidays.
Claims and payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have nothing to come before us, so we stand adjourned. Thank you.